Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to our
Episode
podcast.
12.
Brandon and Paul.
I'm religiously keeping track at this point.
That's right.
I don't know why it matters, but for me somehow
It matters to
chronologically.
somebody.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there you go. And
Yeah.
mostly me. I
Mostly
think.
Paul.
I don't know, like I like to break it down in weeks, so it's like if it's 12 weeks, it's been 3 months and keeps the ball rolling, I guess.
It's like when people are stuck in prison and they're like scratching the little numbers on the side of the wall. I've been here for 347 days.
Slowly going insane. Episode 24 is when Brandon finally loses it.
That's when I finally crack and I'm like, I can't handle this anymore. I can't talk about stuff.
One more episode. I just want to talk about things that bum me out.
Yeah, by episode 24, then I'll be breaking out my Smeagol voice. What's inspiring to you? My precious.
Too much positivity. Let's get some negativity.
Yeah, that's right.
What sucks in your life, Brandon? Tell me all the things you hate for an hour.
Yeah, life was good, but then I woke up and I got out of bed.
Yeah, it's a rough way to start up the day, waking up.
Yeah, that's right.
It's the depression episode.
No, I don't have anything depressing to talk about today. I've got some fun stuff.
Nice.
All right, should I get rolling?
I'd love to hear it. Yeah.
Okay, so
lay it on thick.
Okay, laying it on thick. My inspiring thing that I want to talk about today is music. I feel like in the past I've talked about a lot of stuff for nature or like the human body or different things like that. But
you're probably the only person that's ever been inspired by music, I would think.
Yeah, I'm probably the only person.
This is going to be really interesting deep dive.
Nobody else is ever inspired by music. I mean, I think that there's a lot you could go to with music. So I'm just gonna lay on the broad category of music as being inspiring. And I'm sure
a bunch of different pieces.
I'm sure there's subcategories of music that we could get into at other points in time. But I just think about how music has so many different capacities in life. It can be a storytelling device. It can be something that's purely emotional. It can be something that's sending a message to other people. Example, people's different breakup songs.
Everyone's different take on a breakup.
It can be like something that almost has commentary on a period of time. You listen to older music and it's like, oh man, like this is music from the 50s, the 60s,
There's like a cultural element.
Yeah, you can just listen to music and know that sounds like a song from the 70s,
Yeah.
I think it's also interesting the difference between music that has lyrics in it versus non-lyrical music, just instrumental music. You've got these classical pieces of art that's back in Mozart and Beethoven and how dramatic and intense some of that music was. It was emotional almost in like an angry way or in like an aggressive form of music.
People had a lot of stuff to work through.
They had a lot going on. Yeah. They had a lot of regressed anger that they were getting out through their music. Just like emo punk bands have a lot of.
Probably working for like a king or some royal court would do that to you. Like, I just want to write what I want to write.
Yeah.
Dun, 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 dun.
This is what you need to play for music when I sit down on my throne. Dun, 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 dun. Yeah.
Yeah. Like, I'll play it, but I'll play it angrily.
Yeah. Begrudgingly.
Full of spite.
Yeah. Just how music can it can cross the boundaries of language as well.
It's almost a type of language.
Yeah. Right. I could listen to music from a completely different country, a lot of European classical music, or some of my favorite music actually that I'm listening to right now is the soundtracks for Studio Ghibli. So that was made by Japanese composer for animated films. And, just completely different country, different influences. And I can listen to those and different instruments. I can listen to those and be like, oh man, that's really inspiring to me. I love this music,
Yeah.
And so I find music as a general topic, a lot of inspiring things for that. my first question I wanted to ask you with music is, when do you feel like, at what age and what kind of music did you feel like you really started to get into music? Like you would listen to music just for the sake of listening to it.
Yeah,
When do you feel like that happened for you?
that's a good question. Yeah. As opposed to one of the questions or I guess last episode that I didn't really have the answer to, of fire, I think. It was like
Yeah, I don't remember what I asked you about fire, but
something about like
something.
when was the first time you like realized like fire was cool or something, or like had
Oh
an
yeah.
experience with it.
Yeah.
This one I do have usually around like 6 or 7, I would say, is like when I first started having my memories of like music and being
Hmm.
like into it. And because my dad used to have like a record player, so I'd find all the old like rock stuff, like 70s rock, Striper,
Hmm.
all that kind of old stuff. And I would just sit and put them on back to back and just,
Hmm.
I don't even know what I would do. Sometimes I'd just play Legos and stuff and like listen to music. But I've always had like a pretty intense, or yeah, like intense interest, or like a big focus on like having music around or just even listening to it. Like a little later on, I would always like, my dad had this sound system that you could plug headphones into. And so since I'm guessing my mom probably didn't want constant noise, I would just put in these like super big over ear headphones and just sit and just like go through albums and just
Hmm.
like sit there and rock out and POD and
Oh
like
yeah.
old stuff like that. So even from a young age, I was already into like the rock and lighter metal stuff.
Hmm.
And yeah, I don't know, just I think for me, I've always liked new experiences, and music is one of those things that's so dynamic that it, like, you could listen to two different pieces of music and be like transported to like two different mindsets or two different, you
Hmm.
know, moods or whatever. It's got this transformative effect in addition to being something like complex and new. So I think for me that was always, it's like it's kind of like you said, if you hear something from the 50s, you're almost like transported back to the 50s in a way, and
Hmm.
you can kind of like feel how they think. That's a weird sentence, but you kind of like get a vibe on what was people were thinking, or like how people were, like there's something infused into that music. And so
Yeah.
even to this day, what I love doing is I love picking like a genre and then typing it into YouTube with like a country name. So you pick like rap, and then you type in German rap, Russian rap,
Hmm.
Japanese rap, Australian rap. And it's like you get to see like this one, how each culture has a take on this one type of music, and there's similarities but also differences. So it kind of feels like there's a little bit of that traveling or something, just by listening to different music from different countries, in specifically one genre. But I think music as a whole can like transport you to different mindsets and stuff. So
Hmm.
I definitely grew up, I think maybe subconsciously at that point, that's what it was doing for me, was kind of like putting me in a different like headspace, or, exposing me to new ideas or new things and ways of thinking. So I just ate that up. And then pretty much I've always been into music, especially once I got my first iPod. It was
Hmm.
like, that was a game changer. And then, yeah, from there it was
Yeah.
kind of history.
All
But
those songs right in your pocket.
little
Oh,
minor hiccup there, but
hiccup. That's okay.
Brandon's
Yeah.
back.
So, thinking about like when music was, first interesting to you at a young age, and thinking about, for you, you were talking about, okay, around like 5 or 6 years old, you got into music. Maybe your dad had some influence on that. You got kind of into the rock and that type of scene. Were there any like, you mentioned POD earlier, but were there any other specific bands that like you were really into that band and listened to that music a lot?
Nothing that anyone's ever heard of, but yeah, this band called Sometime Sunday and
Mm.
Die Happy.
Mm.
So basically any like Christian metal from the like 80s, I guess,
Mm.
or like hard rock probably is closer to what it is. But yeah,
Mm.
I listened to a ton of those bands. And then there was also, actually, this is funny, I haven't thought about this for ages. Um, there was like, what was it H&M? I think it was. Do you remember like there was like a music label or something back in the day, and they would do like mix CDs with like a bunch of different artists on them.
I
And
mean,
so my
I'm only H&M only makes me think of that clothing brand. Is
yeah,
there like a music label that's different with the same name or something?
I think they were like before probably the business. I don't know. It was like,
Okay.
but my dad used to get like these magazines that had like a CD in the back, and then on the CD would be like one track from 20 different people or something.
Hmm.
So I would just go through like tons of those and just be like, "Ooh, who's this band? Who's this band?" And like I'd have favorite tracks obviously, and be like, "These three bands suck, but the other seven are great." And so you'd have to like when you put the CD on, you'd skip through the tracks you didn't like, and
Yeah, yeah.
you know all that kind of stuff. But
Oh man, that's funny.
um, yeah, so I used to like just consume those every month, and that was a lot of fun. Just
Hmm.
kind of being exposed to new stuff because it's not like you can go on the internet and just be like type in something and be like, I'm looking for more metal, and just type it in.
Mm-hmm.
And kind of, and for me, I wasn't really going out and buying CDs or anything either, because like I think my parents thought it was a waste of money. I don't know what the exact reason was, but I was probably spending all my money on Legos, to be honest. So I didn't like, why would I buy a $10 CD when I could buy a $10 Lego set? I don't know.
Right. I know.
The economics of that just don't add up.
I don't need to listen to things.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I get free
totally.
stuff from my dad all the time.
Yeah.
So it kind of helped that my dad was like, he ran the coffee shop at the church that like hosted bands and stuff. So
Mm,
he was always super into music. And that's probably one of the biggest factors of just having it accessible, and much to my mom's chagrin, I
mm,
think. I don't think she liked some of the heavier stuff at the
yeah.
time. And then her son turned into a metalhead, and we haven't spoken to this day. No, I'm kidding.
What are you talking about? She's like our one listener. Uh,
So yeah.
uh,
But yeah, what about you? Is there a time
yeah.
that stands out where it's like, ooh, I'm a music guy?
Yeah, I don't think I got into listening to music until I was about maybe like 9 or 10 or so. I had a
Mm-hmm.
friend come over to the house. His family was visiting in town and they were like family friends with my parents, and his name was Zach actually, and I haven't talked to him in like years, so
What's up,
I hope
Zach?
you're doing well, Zach. But he was really into music and from a young age and loved music, and I think he's been in some bands and recorded and done some stuff since then. But he came over and he had a bunch of CDs with some of his favorite music on it, and so he like
Nice.
downloaded it onto my computer and put it into
Mm.
my Windows Media Player, which I'm pretty sure is not a thing now, but
It is,
back
yeah.
then I was like, oh yeah, that's still
That's what I
popular.
that's what I edit these videos on.
Oh, really? Oh,
Yeah.
okay. Oh, that's good to know. But yeah, he put it on there, and I was like, "What is this? Like music? I'm supposed to listen to this or something?" Like I just never really thought about listening to music just for the sake of listening to music.
Yeah.
And I remember he put on um, Lifehouse, and he put on Rush, and I think he put on maybe some POD or maybe some other things. I can't totally
Skillet
remember.
or something.
Maybe, but I loved Lifehouse, and I would just listen to all their songs like over and over again.
Was it like
And I would,
love it first listen where you like heard it and you were hooked, or did it
yeah,
take a few
yeah, I
times?
felt like I was hooked like right away.
Hmm.
And ever since then, I started collecting. I had friends who would make mix CDs and discs, and I'd see people and like, ooh, can I have some of your music? And I'll put it onto my computer. And so all that kind of
Yeah.
stuff started happening around the age of like 9 or 10 or something. And I remember I used to go through my Windows Media Player and I would like look at what songs were most listened to, and I'd be like
Mm.
kind of selecting songs, and I would specifically try to like listen to certain songs so that I could like up their quota of how much I'd listen to them. And there was like a rating system on like stars where you could
I
be
remember
like, is this
that.
like a
Yeah.
0 to 5 star song? And the more you would listen to a song, the more it would like kind of automatically like up its stars or something. And you could change the stars and I don't know, all this stuff. So I used to be really into like analyzing my music and my own listening
Curating
habits,
it.
and like these are my top 5 that I've listened to the most, and these are my least favorite. it, and I'm trying to bring these ones up there a little bit because I really like those. And I had like my whole like
Feel like
system
you're
going
like
with
cheating on the
music.
song if it doesn't have enough like listens, but you like really like it. Like, how does
Yeah.
that only have 10? That's my favorite song. How does it only have 10? Like skip to
Yeah.
the last 5 seconds a bunch of times to try to get it up.
Oh, so yeah, I was like really into analyzing my own like music listening habits, but it was pretty much
Huh.
all Lifehouse music. That was like my top stuff that I loved listening to, which was
What
funny.
about that spoke to your soul or whatever?
I think I really liked some of the effects they had on guitar. I liked the deeper voice of the singer. Um, I liked I couldn't always understand the lyrics of the songs because just the way he sings, like didn't know he's like not the most articulate with his singing. I think the lead singer's name was Jason Wade, but I went and looked up the lyrics and I really liked the way that his music played. But I felt
Mhm.
like that was like my band. Like I didn't
Hmm.
know other people who were really into that band, and so I think that not only did I connect with just their music and all of their style and everything, but just knowing that nobody else really listened to them except me made me
Yeah.
feel like they were special to me. And it's
Huh.
like, oh, this is my cool thing. Like, I'm not like sharing a band with somebody else. This is like my band. So I think I felt a little exclusive about it too.
That's funny. I was literally just about to ask, like, is that something that was appealing to you? Just because for some people that would be, especially as a teenager, that might be isolating. But they're like, "Ugh, like I feel so on the outside because I don't like anything that other people like, or it's
Yeah.
makes you uncomfortable if you don't. People aren't telling you your band's good or something. So you liked Lifehouse? That was your go-to jam.
Yeah. Yeah. Lifehouse was the jam. I liked it. Yeah. And I
Yeah.
think I liked it because other people didn't listen to it as much as me. So I think I was into it.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
sometimes I wonder because I don't know. I don't know how I come across in this podcast, but I'm often told that I have a deeper voice, and sometimes my speaking voice or my singing voice. I don't know. I don't know if I do or not, but I oftentimes think that maybe I would sing a lot of Lifehouse songs and I would sing it deeper, and so maybe that made me have a deeper voice or something. I don't know. I don't know if I
Literally shaped you your physiology.
change my voice box. I don't know.
That'd be interesting. Huh.
Yeah,
Well,
I'm not sure if that's true or not. Maybe that's just my imagination.
yeah.
But
Some bro science.
one last question I had with you about the music idea, aside from going back to the origin story of when you got into music, what music was cool for you, today, what do you feel like music does for you? Like if you listen to music and you're listening to it just because you want to listen to some music while you're doing chores or working or whatever it is, why pick music, and why would you pick what style of music you picked? What is that accomplishing for you to listen to it?
Yeah. Um, I think mostly it's an energy thing. Um, I tend to listen to music for maybe almost use it like coffee or something. Like there's certain or mood alteration in some way where depending on what you're doing, you can just kind of almost hack your brain a little bit. And maybe that's a cold and clinical way to enjoy music. But for me, it's just, yeah, like mostly, um, I think it also gives my brain something to like focus on in addition to the task I'm doing. So it kind of helps take all the pressure off like one thing I'm doing. So for instance, if I'm writing, it kind of like helps pull my brain out from just writing. Because if I'm like just writing, I'm like overthinking it. I'm like, that line is not right. How could I say that better? That's not a good idea. But if I have a little bit of music in the background, sometimes I can like take a little step back and then be like, ooh, that's a cool like melody in that song or whatever. So there's like almost a little bit to get you out of a loop. But I think a lot of times it just different music gives you different types of energy. And so like that's kind of how I would approach it most of the time. So if I'm doing something energetic, like I put on some techno or some psytrance or something. If I'm just chilling and want to like enhance that, I'll put on some African beats or something. If I'm need to just power through stacking some wood and just get it done and throw on some metal, and just start throwing logs. And so it really just more so like a match the mood type thing. Or sometimes, if like I want to be in a mood too, like I'll think about like what music would facilitate that. So it's like maybe I'm more like lazy feeling, but I want to be more energetic. So then I throw on again the techno or the psytrance, and it's like okay, like it starts elevating my energy levels and my thinking speed and all that kind of stuff. So I think a lot of it's just kind of modulating your physiology to some extent. And then there is more, I guess, like meaningful stuff, but I haven't come across that as much lately, I guess. So just my own personal bias at this time. But yeah, what about you?
Yeah, I totally agree with you. It's fascinating how music has such a powerful effect on altering moods and mindsets in the moment. I find that I would say more often than not, I listen to music that doesn't have lyrics to it. So I'll listen to classical soundtracks to movies, things like that, instrumental stuff, because I like to think or sometimes talk out loud when I'm doing like a chore or whatever I'm doing throughout the day. And it's nice to listen to something where I'm not interested in singing, but that way I can like process something, have a little space to like problem solve or create an idea in my brain or my to-do lists or whatever it is. And that way I feel like my brain is like working on something and the music is almost helping me like feel creative.
Yeah.
But I definitely feel like it changes a lot of energy moods for me too. Like when it gets into the evening, I want to listen to something really slow and relaxing, and maybe
like
I'll listen to
Gregorian
something a little I haven't done that, but
5
the
hours
Tibetan
of
singing
meditation.
bowl, the Studio Ghibli music, the maybe some like more classical jazz kind of music.
Yeah, I'll send you some great Gregorian chanting.
Okay, cool.
I'll enjoy it.
Yeah,
yeah. No, I feel that.
It's like I want something that'll help me fall asleep at night. And the other day I had some friends over and they were eating dinner with us, and it was getting a little bit later, and we were all chatting. And I grabbed the phone and I changed the music selection, and it was kind of getting into this slow, low energy music. And I changed it to like salsa. And as soon as I got into salsa music, everybody instantly like stopped what they were talking about, looked around, was like, ooh, I feel like I do a little dancing. Oh, we got some music to move to. And yeah,
shoulders are moving now.
Yeah, we're all rolling our shoulders. And it was like the energy just got a second wind suddenly. And it's so fascinating how music can just do that. You hear it and instantly it's like your brain and everything just changes and you're like, whoa, I'm awake. Like
mind control.
That's right.
It's because a parasite in your brain. I think, people have done studies with that, or like, I don't know. I feel like there must have been some psychological experiments to like try to get people to, probably done by the CIA, I'd imagine. How can we control people with music?
Yeah. I think the CIA working with Taylor Swift have probably done the experiments on that.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. That's funny.
Let's make everyone depressed from broken hearts and random things. Anyway.
Yeah. But what's kind of interesting to me actually, because I was thinking about like why that approach to music for me, but it is interesting because I think back in the day, or more in the past, I would have tried to get music to match the mood that I was in. But now more so I like use the music to get to the mood I want to be in, if that makes sense.
Oh, that's interesting. Really interesting.
And I don't know if that's like a case of, back in like in the olden days, you would have your own like selection of music that you curated. So you knew it all, you knew what you had access to, and you could kind of like select from that to like fit a mood. And now things are much more like you could just type a genre in YouTube and find that music, so it's like maybe by that merit alone, it becomes more, proactive, as in you have a choice to like go outside just what you own or something like that. I don't know if there's a reason for that, but that is something that I've realized where it's like I don't really pick stuff to fit my mood as much, and more so like I pick stuff for the mood I want to be in, or like where I want to be. But I don't know.
I feel like it
Yeah,
takes a lot of self-discipline and awareness of what you're trying to do and awareness of the music too. You know, that's some advanced chess playing with your music.
maybe. Yeah, I don't know. Like, but that might just be a consequence of overthinking it. I really just needed to listen to the sad song. I don't know. But yeah, do you find yourself mostly like trying to match your moods, or like trying to like change a mood?
I don't know. Yeah, I mean, I would say I do try to change moods a little bit. I don't know. Gosh, do I try to match moods as much? I mean, yeah, I think sometimes I'll get off work and I'll be like, "Yeah, I'm off work and I've got some free time. Whew, I feel good. Yeah, I feel like I got energy. I want to listen to something energizing. Yeah, it's cool." Or yeah, I could see myself like I feel a little melancholy for a parent. No, just I don't know. I feel sad for
Put on
whatever
some
reason.
BGs, make it all better.
I'm just gonna stare out the window, and I don't feel like changing my mood. I just feel like being sad. I'm just gonna
Yeah.
like listen to Nora Jones or whatever, sing sad songs.
Mad World by Gary Jules.
I
Yeah, interesting. Yeah, there is something to like enhancing a mood, to like feel it deeper, or to like to sink in a sense.
yeah yeah.
That's
So anyway,
true
there's
acceptance
my
right there.
yeah. That's right. Anyway, yeah, that's my thing on music,
Yeah.
and I don't know if you have any other thoughts on that, but I think that's my
I mean, I
inspiring
could easily talk
ideas.
for 5 hours about music, I think.
Yeah.
But I won't.
Yeah. You don't want to, I mean, maybe another time we'll get into the subgenres of Gregorian chanting or
Yeah.
maybe Mongolian throat singing and,
Yeah, totally.
talk about other stuff too.
Why is it so cool? Who
Yeah. We
knows?
could we could
Only
talk
the
just
monks
about Lord
do.
of the Rings, there's all kinds of stuff we can talk about with
Oh
music.
my
Yeah.
gosh, yeah. Yeah. Actually, Rings of Power had pretty good music for
They did.
what it's
Yeah.
worth. Yeah.
Yeah, they had some pretty good music.
All right, that's my only compliment for that show. All right. Go burn. Just kidding. All right, so my topic was I'm going to go with my or not weird topic, but I'm going to go, what inspires me, Brandon?
Yeah. Tell me.
Brandon Cope.
Oh, whoa. Wow.
Bring it super meta.
Wow.
Yeah. No, I just figure like, why not? Like you've always inspired me. We spent a lot of time growing up together, and like why not talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, dude. I will
So,
pay you money for this later.
so start from the beginning. Why are you such a knob? I don't know. For me, I'll just say why it's inspiring to me. I just like I've always admired your character, and like you're like I think there's certain people that just really try to always do the right thing, whether they do it or not. Like nobody does it all the time, but I think there's rare people that like give it their all the time. And I think you're one of those people. So that inspires me because I respect that. And I think that's like a really cool way to live. And it, really takes you a lot of different places in life and takes you through a lot of unexpected turns when you're living authentically and, trying to be conscious and aware at each path or at each turn in life, And so I think that's like really cool because you definitely follow your conscience, you follow what you feel like you're being led to do, and that takes you into strange places like we were talking about just earlier, Idaho being one of them, the strangest of places. But it kind of like pays off at the end, and like even if you can't see it in the moment, it's like meeting your significant other through a random job that you just feel like called to do. It's like that's amazing and that's super inspiring. So like I think it's much easier to just take the easy way out, as it were, and just try to do things the way everyone else does them, or um, try to just lay low and minimize risk and minimize all this kind of stuff. But I think that shows, or that has its own set of downfalls, I guess. But yeah, I don't know. Like, what? I'd be curious what made you the way you are. No, at a certain point in your life, did you
I was
ever
born at a young age, and no.
Yeah.
Anyway, sorry. Go
born
keep going.
premature? No, I'm just curious. Like, was there a certain age when you felt sort of like a drive or a responsibility or some sort of like, yeah, I guess I can't think of a great way to put it, but
Yeah, actually, I can think of maybe a few kind of like milestones of change in my life that I can
yeah,
think of. I think
it's also a secret way for people to get to know you on the podcast.
I think I mean I would say that one of the first milestones of change in my life was actually when I was I think age like 10, 11, 12, and I would play that Hero Quest
Mm.
RPG, remember, that Randy did
Oh,
and
I remember. Yeah,
Phil.
even though I
And
never played it,
I know you
still had a
never
huge
played it, but
impact
it
on my life.
was so many people played it, and it was just fun. I think that was the first time I really got into my own imagination.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it was also the first time I felt like I was really connecting with a group of people. Like,
Hmm.
these are my people. And I just obsessed over the rule book. Like, I was so into the technical details of all the like experience points and the armor and the abilities and the races and classes and all the things. And
Mm-hmm.
I just was like totally obsessed with that. It was like the coolest thing ever.
Would you share your knowledge with people or anything? Was that part of
I
it? Or because
oh
you said you liked the community aspect, or you found your people, but was it like, was
oh
the
yeah.
stats part of it a social thing too? Or were you like teaching people even then, or
I don't know if I was. I mean, like I definitely would show off my textbook knowledge prowess where people would say stuff and I would be like
actually
I
you're
would
that
like
kid?
totally quote straight out of the book and be like, no dude, it's in the book that you can do that thing. Here, let me show you. And I'd flip like right to the page and like, here it is. See, look, it talks about it right here. And like I didn't start out that way, but maybe like a couple years into it, I
Mm-hmm.
was a little bit more on the side of like I knew how to do stuff.
Once you progress,
And
just being past being a pizza eater.
yeah. I know, because there was always pizza and soda every single time, so that was also a huge bonus. But especially as a kid. But no,
Mm-hmm.
that was like my Friday night, thrill of the week. Was like I basically just like lived for doing that every week when I was young. That was like the most exciting thing in my whole life.
Yeah.
And I mean, I think Randy did a really good job of always impressing characteristics and morals and good foundations of human behavior
Mm.
in those groups. And so I think that was always like there was a lot to think about in terms of your actions and decisions. And, there was a lot of like imagination that got set up for me, a lot of good creativity in my life. I think a lot of like how to think ahead. Okay, it's going to be 5 people's turn before it comes back to me. What are all the things I could do with my character? What are the risks of different dice rolls and options? And what can I do? And I feel like it made me like see how to think strategically in life,
Mm-hmm.
which I think was a really big important thing, especially at a young age.
Hmm.
So I think that was one kind of milestone season
Was there
that
like
shaped
positive
me
role models there too?
in terms of like, yeah, actually there were like in terms of other players or friends, because I was on the younger end of people there. I mean, I was like, yeah, like 10 or
Yeah.
11 or whatever, and there were other people there who were in high school or even
Yeah.
older, and so there were definitely plenty of people to look up to
Yeah.
who
Potential role models
um
even.
yeah, yeah, for sure.
Hmm.
I think that was a big deal for me, like in earlier ages. And then I think there was another milestone that was kind of an interesting one actually, where I remember going to youth group. So this was a little older when I think maybe I was like 15 at the time. But I remember going to youth group And I was just so, again, like obsessively invested in that youth group. And I remember I started like inviting people to that youth
Sensing a
group, you know?
personality trait here.
Yeah, I know. Finding a group and then being super obsessed with it. I mean, I don't know. It was easier to get really obsessed with things when you were young. I don't know if I'm like that same level of obsession now, but you know, I got super into the group, and so I would invite tons of people to the group, you know. And I remember after being kind of established in the group for a couple of years and inviting lots of friends, the youth pastor Ryan, I'll never forget. I think it was probably kind of an arbitrary thing on his from his point of view, but to me it was significant. I
Yeah.
remember him like taking his hand one day after I told him like, "Yeah, dude, I invited this friend and he's going to start coming." And I remember him taking his hand and like hitting it over my shoulders and being like, "Dude, I have dubbed you into knighthood. You are now in charge of that person. That is your people, dude. You are the leader of those sheep and you just go ahead and like
Huh.
disciple them and show them about God." And it was like, whoa, like I could do that. And ever since then, I felt like after that moment in the youth group, I was super invested in like meeting all the new people I would see, shaking their hands. Hi, what's your name? You're like, glad you're here. Do you want to come sit next to me? Let's play this game together. I feel like it totally changed me in the youth
Interesting.
group to like see people outside of myself and see how I can interact with them. So I don't
Yeah.
remember what your original question was, but those are a couple things in my life that I'm
I
recounting
do I
for
do
you.
remember you like becoming that person who would like go out of their way to like meet people and stuff and like all that. Huh, I never knew that story though, but that makes a lot more sense. Huh.
Hmm.
Yeah, because you're always pretty welcoming and yeah, like it's cool to see you're actually making an effort to do that rather than that was just like maybe your natural inclination, you know? Because I think it says more when it's an effort. Um,
Yeah. Yeah. I don't feel like because when I started at that youth group, I think I was like 13 when I first started going, and I had no friends. And my sister used to talk to me all the time because she went to the youth group too and be like,
mhm.
you need to make friends and there's nice people there. And like, why don't you go talk to them? And I just was so awkward and felt weird. And I was the homeschool guy and I was a little younger and I just didn't know how to
Yeah.
make friends. And it took me a while. And I
Everyone's talking about
think,
their high school experience and what they did in class or last week, and you're like, well, my
yeah,
mom showed me how to paint a cloud. Like,
I slept in. I didn't do zero
yeah,
period or whatever. Yeah.
yeah, that was usually my go-to line. Like, oh, I didn't do that much school. I'm cool, or
Yeah.
whatever. I don't know.
I don't have to work as hard as you. I'm cool.
Yeah, something like that. Even though that's
uh,
like kind of yeah,
yeah.
at
In
this point.
hindsight, it's like, oh, that's not really something to brag about.
Yeah, like I wish I'd learned more,
I
or
know it's like,
whatever.
I wish I'd maybe had a little bit more challenging
Yeah,
upbringing.
exactly.
I think maybe I'm lazy.
Yeah,
uh, yeah,
I wish my parents had challenged me more, even
yeah.
though I would have just fought back at the time, you know.
I know, right? Anytime they challenge me, they'd be like, "Okay, we signed you up for this little thing that you're gonna do." I'd be like, "No, I hate it. You guys are terrible. I hate my life."
This must be what child abuse feels like.
Oh, I know. It's like the kind of fight I would put up against things. It's like, oh, no wonder they would back down and be like, "Oh no, we're horrible. Like, what have we done?"
I thought we were just
uh,
trying to give our child opportunities and grow him as a person, but apparently that's toxic to him.
uh, yeah,
Yeah, yeah. My original that was my original question was just basically like, was there pivotal moments where you felt like it progressed you on your journey of character and self growth, and yeah, I think those are cool.
yeah,
Do you find
yeah,
like you had a lot of mentors in life or people that you looked up to often, or was that like a
yeah.
few and far between thing?
I think definitely a lot of good role models and mentors. And I think when you use the word mentor, um, I think that a lot of times people assume the title of mentor is some established relationship you have between you and that person. That it's like,
Yeah, yeah.
I am now thy mentor.
Like sign a contract or something.
You are my Padawan learner, and I am your Jedi master. But I
Yeah,
really don't think that it works that way. It's very much more organic. It's
yeah,
more like, hey, I'm going to hang out with this guy who's twice my age and just do a little life with them. and I'm going to
Yeah.
learn some stuff along the
Could be over like the
way.
course of a week, you know, like do a
Yeah.
project for a friend's family, painting a fence or something. And it's like their
Yeah.
dad's cool and imparts some wisdom.
Yeah. And, I think, like, I definitely think I've learned so much from my parents and even my grandparents. And I don't at all want to like diminish the role that they've played in raising me and turning me into the person I am today. But I do think that everyone has, um, like everybody has kind of a village of people that raise them. There's sort of this like tribe of people that come around and I think influence a child. And I think that every parent just, they do the best they can, but I think that there's still areas in life or characteristics or whatever that they just can't perfectly fulfill every little aspect of the need of a child. And I think it's good for people to kind of have, those aunts and uncles and friends, parents, and all these different things, in their life.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like I think another thing that goes into this idea of mentoring and role models is, and this is probably one of the better things I gained from homeschooling actually, is I think because I was homeschooled, I was so familiar with and comfortable with parents and
Mm.
older people and like my grandparents. So then when I got to adulthood and I would start interacting with older folks, I would feel super comfortable with them. And it was really easy for me to talk to my teachers at school, in different classes that I would take, or colleagues of mine who are older than me or whatever. And I've connected with so many people who are in like their 60s and 70s who I'd get their phone numbers and we'd go out to coffee and I'd hang out and we'd talk about life and they'd ask me what I'm doing. And so many great relationships I've had that I think most people don't really want to go hang out with older people.
Sorry, old people.
And yeah, it's like, I'm sorry, but I think a lot of young people today traditionally don't really like to do that. And I think that there's a ton of stuff that they've lost in terms of learning the way of life from
Mm-hmm.
generations past. And so I do think that homeschooling gave me that proclivity to hang out with older folks, and that's been a good thing for me. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Kind of like, because like most things, it's just kind of exposure and practice. So it's like as long as
Yeah.
you're doing it and, have to interact with those people, it like becomes more comfortable just naturally, I would say.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think. Well, and I think too, when you're saying, like not to diminish the role of parents or whatever, I think there is some level of, depending on the kid too, like almost a like unwillingness to like hear from their parents in a lot of cases. And, it's just like, I don't know, when you're saying it's dumb and it's like, why? Because you're my parent, it's like, there's not
Right.
a good reason. It's just,
Right.
there's like some sort of natural like inclination that causes, that separation there. Or like, I don't know, maybe it's like familiarity. It's like you see your parents' flaws or something, so you don't respect them, or who knows what it is. I don't know, but
Mm.
there's like, it's like your parent could say something, you'd be like, "That's the dumbest thing I've ever heard," and then someone else says it, and you're like, "Whoa, that guy's pretty smart,"
Yeah.
And it's
I
like just
know.
because someone else said it or whatever. But or maybe I'm just projecting right now. Also, I don't
No,
know.
I think that's how most people are. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, there is like when you said it comes to the village thing. It's like it makes sense because you then get like your parents probably aren't the only ones saying like smart things or trying to like say the things that are best for you. So it's like you can find some of those things outside just your even immediate family structure, if
Mm.
you're willing to listen is the big part. And so
Yeah, there's
yeah.
been several times where I can think of friends of mine who would meet my dad specifically, and they'd be like, "Dude, your dad is so cool and he's fun and he's so playful and he's not like all nerdy or weird or strict like my dad is. And dude, I love hanging out with your dad." And to me, it's just like, yeah, it's just my dad. Like, I don't know, it's nothing special. And I think as a kid, I like didn't appreciate it, and now that I'm older, I can like see it with more clarity and appreciate it
Mhm.
more and be like, oh yeah, my dad is a cool guy. That's right.
Yeah. Yeah. And you kind of like realize even what parts of that were imparted to you, as a kid and might have like shaped your more fun loving side or whatever. So
Yeah, especially after getting married, where it's like my wife can look at me and say like, "Oh, I see you're doing the same thing that your dad does," or it's like she can kind of see those little like mannerisms or little quirks or personality things. That's like, oh, this is, you share that little personality trait as your parents do, or whatever.
Yeah. That's
Yeah,
like kind of uncanny and weird, but you're like also kind of a little bit proud, and you're like, I don't know how I feel about this.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I know, right?
Huh.
Mm.
Yeah. Well, that's about all I had. We can do a shorter one today if you want. Um,
Yeah, man. No, thanks. I appreciate you picking me as your inspirational thing,
yeah.
and
My
maybe one of
pleasure.
these days I'll pick you back, but maybe I'll save it for your birthday or
There you
something.
go. Yeah, keep it for a
uh,
special rainy day when you can't think of anything else that inspires you.
yeah, it's a good point though. Like I think we've never talked about specific people as being inspiring. We've talked about a lot of different concepts that are inspirational, and
Mm-hmm.
there are so many inspiring people. And so
Yeah.
I feel like you've opened the door now to talk about, ourselves, family,
Mm-hmm.
mentors, people throughout history. There's a lot of inspiring people out there that we could talk about too.
Yeah.
So it's
Actually,
a
that sparked another thought, which I had the other day, which was, um, hopefully this isn't too long of a tangent, but like in the Orthodox tradition or whatever, um, like how they have like their saints and stuff,
mhm.
and it's like there's this kind of honoring of the saints, and if you're not part of like the tradition, it might seem like a little overboard or weird. It's like, wow, these people really like their saints.
Mhm.
But I was kind of thinking about it in the terms of, um, like in any other situation, people have like their list of people that are like just like really cool, really inspiring, and it's like maybe it's Elon Musk or something, and you're just like, man, that guy goes and gets it, or Jordan Peterson, he's like really changed my life with his wisdom, and you know like taught, like I've learned a lot of things from him. And I was thinking about it, and I'm like, you know what, like the saints of like the Orthodox, it's basically just like inspiring people, that they like kind of honor
Mm.
for being inspiring, or you know passing down like good knowledge, or that they're venerated for different things, but it's like usually there'll be like one thing they're known for, like whatever. And so I was like, it's like everyone needs models and inspiration, and kind of these people that you look up to. And so it's just done in more of like a religious context than maybe like a secular context or whatever, but like that seems to be what is happening there. So that was just my little side tangent.
Mm. Yeah, that is true actually. Yeah. It is funny how we think of role models as a more modern concept,
Mm-hmm.
like, oh, my role model is Superman, my role model is, some business entrepreneur or whatever it is,
Yeah, Jeff
sports
Bezos,
athlete. Yeah.
Mark Zuckerberg.
um yeah, it's like
I'm just picking all the bad ones now.
whatever whatever your inspirational hero person is, it's like today we think of that as something that like we really get into, but back in the day it's like saints or the gladiators, or
Mm-hmm.
the ancient Greece Olympics.
Yeah,
People
right.
were inspired by Alexander the Great. Oh, let's name all of our kids Alexander. Yeah, I mean, it's like,
Yeah.
people were inspired by stuff back then, and they
Even
would
like,
have role
yeah,
models.
like whatever, some of like the mythical gods and stuff.
Oh
It's like
yeah,
I want the strength of Hercules, and the
yeah.
yeah, yeah. So I was just kind of like thinking about that the other day, because I consume a lot of Orthodox content now. So
Mm.
hopefully no one from that community minds me speaking on all their beliefs.
uh,
Let me tell you what they really think after my 3 hours of study.
oh,
Let me break it down for you.
well, I read a Wikipedia page, so I know everything about their history of their philosophies and religion.
Yeah, I'll just wrap
Yeah.
up the last 5,000 years of Greek Orthodoxy in 30 minutes here.
All right, man. Well,
Yeah,
there's our inspiring stuff for today.
yeah, it was a good time. I
Yeah,
enjoyed
man.
myself
Yeah.
immensely.
Yeah. Good chat.
All right, until
Cool.
next week, everybody. Thank you for
That's
tuning
right.
in.
Thank you for listening, everyone.
Yeah, see you later.
Peace out.